So this is Seeking the Wolf Tree. It's written by myself and illustrated by Marjorie Leggett, who lives in Colorado. And I dedicated the book to the spirit of the old trees and all who seek their company. Like these kids here, these are illustrations they made after reading the book. So one of the activities you can do is find your own wolf tree and sit down with it for a while and draw it. There's a lot of links between art and science because both of them require a lot of keen observations. So I'm not sure how to do this, but I'll show you the pictures first and then read the text. So today is the day Aurora and Orion have been waiting for, their first big field trip to the Hubbard Brook Experimental Forest. And you can see this is the state of New Hampshire in green, and Hubbard Brook is indicated as an orange rectangle. It's again part of the White Mountain National Forest. And Aurora and Orion say, "We need your help. Grab your notebooks and let's solve the mystery of the wolf tree." So it starts with them. They're taking a field trip to the Forest Service building, actually in Campton. That's the visitors center that's closest to Hubbard Brook. "Come with me," Orion says, dragging Aurora to a display on the wall. This is what most forests in the mountains looked like hundreds of years ago. That's this illustration here. Lots of big trees, lots of down woody debris. Do you think any of those trees are still alive? Aurora wonders. Maybe. It says right here that an old growth forest is one in which there has been no large disturbance for at least 200 years. In these forests, natural succession has led to a mixture of trees of all ages and stages, including many unusually old trees. Wouldn't it be amazing to find a group of old trees like that? Aurora says. Yes, but it sounds like old growth forests are pretty rare these days, Orion comments. Still, Aurora sighs, dreaming of a stand of tall, ancient trees. And then they see another display that's sort of pictured here. Hey, there's another display about old trees. The wolf tree. Orion laughs, oh, howling like a wolf. He takes out his notebook. So his notebook will be in the book down here. I've never heard of such a thing, says Aurora. It says, old-time foresters coined the term wolf tree for trees they saw as having the ability to eat the sun and nutrients and prevent the growth of other trees. Today, however, we understand how wolf trees help wildlife. A wolf tree appears as the largest and oldest tree in the new forest stand. They often have large trunks. So that's illustrated down here in the notebook. It has a large trunk, which we typically measure as the diameter of the trunk. Low branches. So because it grows in the open, there'll be branches whether or not they're alive at the time that you see the tree, there'll be at least the signs of dead branches down low. And that's because they grew in the full sunlight. They are impressive because of their size, character, age, and are commonly surrounded by smaller trees. So they're the oldest, largest tree in a regenerating forest stand. They were left. And Orion's pretty excited. He said, that's something we need to find. Let's go. He's ready to get out. Aurora's a little more cautious. Where should we begin? Aurora asks, looking at the map. Here's a map of Hubbard Brook. And some of the legend shows some of the places they're going to visit. Let's begin at one of the gauge stations, Orion says. I think we should start in the bird area or maybe in the Hemlock Ravine, Aurora says. How about the watersheds or Mount Kineo? Orion gestures toward the tallest mountain on the map. That's over here, Mount Kineo. It's a blue triangle. What will we need to bring? Aurora asks. Aurora is kind of the planner in the group. These are some of the things that they want to bring. A medical kit, water is critical, notebooks, binoculars, a backpack to put everything in. So they're going to go on their first trip. Here's a picture of from their first trip. They're going out with the birders. It's mid-spring in the forest, so right around now, actually, a little bit, maybe a few weeks later than now. And the black flies are out. Aurora and Orion have decided to start their quest for a wolf tree in the bird area, where they are going to watch birds and count caterpillars. Don't forget your binoculars, Aurora reminds Orion. Do you know if there might be a wolf tree nearby? Aurora asks Sarah, their guide. Sarah knows of a large sugar maple tree she thinks might be one. Are wolf trees important to birds, Orion asks. Yes, birds use wolf trees, especially birds called cavity nesters, Sarah says. Before we go look, could you help me identify as many bird nests as possible? And again, Orion's notebook is down here, and he's drawn some of the nests that he saw. So ovenbirds nest on the ground, and then a lot of nests are up in the trees like this hummingbird nest. And then the key bird that we study at Hubbard Brook is the black-throated blue warbler, and this is a picture of what their nests look like. They're kind of in the shrub layer, fairly near the ground, but up about 4 feet or so. And then, as with a lot of field work, there's some lab work involved afterwards. And so they go to the lab. In the afternoon, Orion and Aurora are in the lab helping to count and weigh caterpillars collected from the leaves and saplings in the forest. Caterpillars are important to the diets of many forest birds. The number and size of caterpillars differ from year to year. So there's a lot of variation. Some years have a lot of caterpillars, some years have almost no caterpillars. And this depends much on the changes in temperature and rainfall. In years with a cold or wet spring, there are fewer caterpillars and the baby birds are hungry. As they are looking at caterpillars, Orion and Aurora almost forget about the search for the wolf tree. But Sarah remembers. When they return to the forest to release the caterpillars, Sarah says, "You guys have been a big help. Thanks. Now, let me show you that large sugar maple I was talking about. Let's see if you think it's a wolf tree." And so every time they encounter a tree, someone takes them to a tree, they have their little checklist to decide whether it's a wolf tree or not. So you'll see that. And that's something that you can do as an activity, is take this checklist to a tree that you think is a wolf tree. Does it have low branches, a large trunk, signs of age, signs of wildlife use? Is it surrounded by a lot of smaller trees? Now their next journey into the forest. So they decided that the sugar maple had 3 of the 5 characteristics, but it wasn't the wolf tree they were seeking. It's a hot day in summer. Here they are on their next trip with Tim Fahey. Aurora and Orion have planned to go to a cool hemlock forest by Hubbard Brook. A professor named Tim needs help collecting soil samples near spots with mushrooms. He is interested in how the tree roots and mushrooms help each other. The mushrooms help tree roots gather water and nutrients from the soil, and the roots feed the mushrooms, he explains. There are lots of mushrooms on the other side. Here's the mushrooms. So let's cross the brook. I also know a very large hemlock tree on the other side that I'd like to show you. Aurora and Orion wonder if it might be a wolf tree. So these mushrooms actually live in association with the roots of the trees, and they feed each other. So it's a mutual benefit to the trees and the mushrooms. Mushroom hunting is a lot of fun. Aurora and Orion try to imagine how far beneath the soil the mushrooms grow. I wonder how many mushrooms are attached to the root of this one. It's so big and old, Orion says, pointing to a very large tree. That's the large hemlock, Tim explains. A pretty large hemlock. And it's got yellow belly sapsucker holes in it. And you can see the yellow belly sapsucker is illustrated there. They drink the sap of the tree. Unlike other woodpeckers that are actually going for grubs and stuff, they're actually drinking the sap. And they love hemlocks. However, on the checklist, this tree only has 2 things that in the wolf tree, so 2 out of 5. So it's not the wolf tree, but it was a really cool trip. Now it's autumn. And here's a picture of the next trip. You can see there's a lot of light coming into the forest because the leaves are down. Autumn is an exciting time with changing leaves and animals scurrying to put food away for the winter. On this trip, Aurora and Orion will help Cindy, a forest naturalist, collect leaves and seeds from baskets in the forest. So that's Cindy, and the basket is actually just like a storage crate on fence posts. What they collect will tell them a lot about production, the number of leaves, and composition, the types of leaves. Hearing their interest in large trees, Cindy wants to show them her special beech tree high up on the south-facing watersheds. So going back to composition, you can see Orion's notebook down here. He's taken out his watercolors. And this is kind of a publishing glitch. It's kind of funny. So these are the big 3 of the northern hardwoods. And you can see that yellow birch is labeled, sugar maple is labeled, and they forgot to label American beech. So you could label it in your book. The hike to the top of the watershed is tough. While everyone stops to take a sip of water, Cindy tells them that mast years are when the maple and beech trees produce lots of seeds. The number of seeds in the forest is important to many animals, including chipmunks and black bears. During mast years, these animals are more likely to survive the winter because they have more to eat. More seeds mean more chipmunks in the spring. More chipmunks in the spring means trouble for baby birds. Did you know chipmunks eat baby birds? That's disgusting, Orion remarks. I thought they just ate nuts. As they reach the beech tree at the top of the watershed, they notice black marks in the smooth bark. So that's pictured here. Closer. Are those claw marks? Aurora asks. Cindy smiles. Yes, those are black bear claw marks. From the size of them, that was a pretty big bear, Orion exclaims. So is this their wolf tree? So it has the signs of wildlife. It has a big trunk, but it doesn't have the low branches, and it doesn't have a lot of signs of age. So they decide it's not a wolf. The search continues. It's mud season. Aurora and Orion have awaited all winter, wondering if they'll ever find the wolf tree. Nick, a Forest Service hydrologist, takes them in a special vehicle down a very soft, muddy road to visit the gauge stations. And the gauge station is pictured in Orion's notebook. Although the gauge stations now have a lot more instrumentation because they're digital. This was before that. These are all have to be manually measured. They park by a stream with a weir that measures water flow. And the weir is the big picture here. So this is the weir, and it's measuring the water flow through a very calibrated V notch. Every week I come out here to measure temperature, rainfall, and stream water in the forest. The temperature and water affect all the plants and animals in the forest, Nick says. I'm happy to have your help this week. Have you ever seen a wolf tree? Orion asks. There's a large yellow birch near one of the highest gauge stations, he gestures. Most of the yellow birches were left by the old-time loggers because they were too crooked to be valuable timber. And this is very true in the northern hardwood. Nick and Orion wrap a special tape measure around the yellow birch tree to find its diameter. So that's how wide the tree is. Aurora takes notes. This is the fattest tree I've ever seen, Orion says, trying to reach his arms around for the end of the measuring tape. Who do you think lives here? Aurora asks. So she's looking into this crevice at the bottom of the tree. This tree has weathered a few storms, remarks Nick, looking up at the broken canopy. This must be our wolf tree, Aurora and Orion exclaim. It's got everything: low branches, a large trunk, signs of age and of wildlife use, plus it's surrounded by much smaller trees. Oh! Oh! And you can see the checklist again at the... So the book could end here, but it doesn't. It's summer vacation. During their quest for the wolf tree, Orion and Aurora have come to love the forest and want to return. Today they accompany Lynn and John, two researchers who study how moose will affect forest structure. Will we see a moose today? So they just found some tracks with Lynn. Lynn is pictured here. Lynn points out the animal tracks along the way. In the soft mud of the trail, they spot the signs of moose, coyote, red fox, and mice, and Orion has illustrated them in his notebook. As the four climb, Lynn points out to a clump of fir trees that have been nibbled. Who would eat sticky fir trees? Orion asks. That would be worse than a day-old peanut butter sandwich. Firs are the main winter food of moose, Lynn explains. The day-old peanut butter sandwich is an inside joke. If you remember Cindy from the litter baskets, she used to always bring her day-old peanut butter sandwich. Because we would be working so hard, she forgot to eat her sandwich. And then she'd still have it the next day. So that's why that's in there. The group climbs higher, crossing through the forest on the mountain slope. They all sit on a large log for lunch. Hey, that tree is huge, Aurora exclaims. How old do you think it is? John kneels down and twists a tree core into the base of the tree. So this is the way you can age a tree without actually hurting it. You just take a small core. The core is only about this thick, and then hopefully as long as to the center of the tree. John kneels down and twists the tree core into the base of the spruce. He removes a core sample about 9 inches long. Together they count the growth rings, 1 ring for each year of growth. This tree may be over 400 years old, John says. From the sizable log where they had lunch to the many large trees they passed on the mountain, to this mighty red spruce, Orion and Aurora realize they are surrounded by a hillside of ancient trees. We found a whole wolf pack, Aurora exclaims. Yes, this is a fantastic find, confirms John. We call this type of forest old growth. You'll have to let the rangers know. This type of forest often needs special protection. And here's Aurora, who is actually Tammy Wooster, who has worked at Hubbard Brook for many, many years. This is her daughter. Melody is the photo character for this. Trying to find a wolf tree led us to so many amazing things, Orion tells the ranger. So now they're back at the visitor center. Their journeys come full circle. Yeah, we found a whole wolf pack forest, explains Aurora. The ranger looks confused. Wolf pack forest? Yes. Oh, well, John did say to tell you it was old growth, clarifies Orion. Great news, where? Asks the ranger. They all run over to the map. While they show the ranger the spot on Mount Kineo, he tells them they have become junior forest rangers. He brings out special patches for them both. Here's their patches. These badges will let others know you have a lot to share about the forest. He smiled. Congratulations on finding a wolf tree and locating a whole wolf pack forest. And then this glossary explains some of the terms in the book. And also we put in sometimes we think things are clear, but others who haven't used it. So I tried to add a few more tips on finding a wolf tree and clarifying what we mean by large diameter, smaller trees. And so I hope that helps you on your search for a wolf tree. Thanks for listening.